police officer in South Jersey since I turned 23 years old. Contrary to what people around me think, it's not always as exciting as it seems. Not much happens in my district. It's mostly business as usual. Alarm calls, random shoplifting, and sometimes more serious incidents. I've worked almost every possible shift, but the night shift usually gets the strangest calls. One night shift, I was driving down a quiet, poorly lit road surrounded by woods. It was unusually quiet. I wasn't getting any calls. Suddenly, I noticed in the distance glowing taillights crossing the grass on the side of the road. As I got closer, I saw the driver's side door wide open. I slowed down, about to pull over and offer help. At that moment, I saw someone get out of the car, stop at the door, and disappear into the woods. I radioed the codes for the suspicious person or vehicle, and then cautiously got out of the car. With flashlight in hand and holster on my belt, I approached the car, preparing for the worst. I cautiously peered into the car, half expecting to see someone else inside, but it was empty. However, a putrid stench wafted from inside the vehicle, reeking of decay like a rotting animal. I called out to the woods, inquiring if anyone needed assistance, and ventured back to the tree line, illuminating the area with my flashlight. Returning to the car, I carefully surveyed the interior on the passenger side. There were multiple blood-soaked napkins and paper towels scattered across the floor and back seats, all drenched in a deep red hue. While inspecting the car, I heard footsteps emanating from the woods. Swiftly turning with my flashlight, I demanded, "Come out of the woods." I found no one in sight initially. However, I sensed someone hiding, as I heard a deep voice resonating from behind the trees and bushes. I couldn't discern the words. "Reveal yourself. Are you injured?" I called out, my hand inching towards my firearm, cautiously approaching. Repeating my inquiry, there was no response. The voice didn't sound like someone injured and fleeing into the woods after sighting a police car raised concern. Something didn't add up. Returning to the vehicle, I requested backup. Upon closer examination, I noticed the car lacked license plates. While moving towards the rear of the vehicle, I stumbled upon something that nearly made me nauseous. Wrapped in a blood-soaked paper towel was a weighty item. With gloved hands, I cautiously unwrapped it, revealing a severed hand. Initially, the sight was a blur of deep crimson, saturated in blood, until the gruesome reality sank in. The situation escalated instantly, from a concerning 5 to a chilling 10. I urgently radioed for backup, suspecting a potential homicide. I illuminated the area by turning on my headlights, aiding arriving officers in locating my position. When backup arrived, we meticulously combed the woods for any trace of bloody footprints. Yet, there was nothing. The absence of bloody tracks away from the car suggested the hand, and the blood-soaked napkins might not have been from the individual I witnessed fleeing into the woods. Consequently, a canine unit was deployed to scour the area for the man. Hours passed. The search continued until dawn, but yielded no results. The vehicle was impounded as evidence. Its theft was reported by a neighboring town resident, bewildered as to who could have taken their car. Fingerprints were collected from the steering wheel, and DNA testing was conducted on the hand. No match was found in the database. To this day, the identity of the car's driver and the owner of the severed hand remains a mystery. My partner and I are part of the Sheriff's Department division that handles tethered devices or wrist monitors. One night, while tracking down a man who had fled from the program, we followed his last known location to a somewhat dubious area of our county. Few stops are ever routine, but this one felt off right from the beginning. My partner approached the front door while I kept watch on the side of the house, my attention split between him and the house's flank. As we knocked, We heard movement inside and the door creaked open. A middle-aged woman cautiously peered out, her gaze locking directly with mine, though she had no way of knowing where I was positioned. Oddly, there wasn't a visible window facing the front or side of the house. It struck me as strange that she didn't initially address the person at the front door. Eventually, she invited us in. We inquired about a person named Camille, whom we were searching for. She muttered something that suggested she was the one we were looking for. Suddenly, the situation escalated dramatically when she dropped to the floor, crawling and screaming about Camille. It was evident that the woman was struggling with mental health issues, and we suspected Camille might have been her caretaker. We acknowledged the unusual situation and proceeded to search the house, while the woman continued screaming for Camille, remaining on the ground and trailing us throughout. It was around 8 in the evening, and darkness had already set in. Only one light illuminated the interior, devoid of televisions or any other electronics. A peculiar atmosphere pervaded the old house with its 4 bedrooms and 2 floors. As we moved through the rooms, a strange disorientation settled in. Each time I exited a room, it felt as if I'd stepped into a different section of the house, almost like traversing some sort of dimensional shift. Occasionally, the woman would silently appear behind me. I couldn't fathom how any of this was possible, raising unsettling questions. Eventually, we reached the top floor, seemingly a standard level with bedrooms or a bathroom. However, when we attempted to open a door, it refused to yield. It seemed sealed, as if paint had dried within its seams, rendering it immovable. With some effort, the door revealed the attic, not the expected bedrooms. It resembled a scene straight out of Paranormal Activity, when the protagonist discovers eerie pictures in the insulation. Inside, there was nothing but a closet, insulation material, and an old, dangling light bulb. Meanwhile, the woman remained seated at the foot of the stairs, intermittently shouting for Camille. Despite what felt like hours of searching and the feeling of revisiting rooms repeatedly, we eventually made the call and exited the property. As we departed, the woman stood by the door, observing our departure closely. Strangely, despite our perception of spending over an hour or 2 there, our log and dispatch records indicated only 20 minutes had passed. The whole situation was unsettling. The late hour, the woman's incessant calls for Camille, her sudden appearances behind me, and her eerie watchfulness as we left. It was an experience we never wanted to repeat, prompting us to never return to that house again.